Kids of back in my day parents, what's the most annoying thing they ranted about? It always drove me nuts when my parents would complain about how we never spent any time outdoors because back in their day they'd be tramping through the woods at all hours of the night. I wanted to do that, but I wasn't allowed outside. My dad used to tell us about how he and his sisters had to walk 6 km to school each way in blinding blizzards, in 8 feet of snow, with only plastic bags to keep their feet warm, while somebody slapped them on the back of the head with a cold fish. And of course we believed him. Then one day at the farm, in the woods by the back 40, we found this old carriage on sled runners with a wood-burning stove. We asked Grandpa what it was. I used to drive your dad and your aunts to school in that in the winter. The old horses would pull it. We never believed another story about my dad's hardscrabble upbringing ever again. My dad and uncle's aunt like to rant about how young people don't have any honesty or work ethic. My oldest and youngest uncle made moonshine. My middle uncle stole cars. My dad built moonshine running cars out of the parts, and my aunt ran off with a 50-year-old sugar daddy at 15. It took the car-stealing uncle going to jail to straighten them out. All through my teenage years my mom would get mad that I didn't know how to cook or clean something good enough or use something correctly, usually gardening tools, ect. When I was your age I could run my family's B&B single-handed. Then when she was done telling me how stupid I was for not knowing, she'd take over and tell me to go away. Thanks for teaching me how to do it right. That their parents were way stricter and more overbearing, so we had no room to complain. You kids get a trophy for everything now. You never learn how to try hard. Yes, when I was a child I got participation trophies. And they felt very patronizing. Also, I was 7. I didn't ask for the damn trophies. It was your generation who was giving them to me. Edit. My first gold and silver for a simple comment like this. Thank you so much, Invisible Strangers D. Back in their day, only complete losers had cars in high school. According to them, the cool guys were on the school bus with all the pretty girls. And they told me that shit with straight faces. Dial phones. They complained about how kids these days, specifically my brother and I, don't know how to use them after forgetting we had one in the house until I was 7, and I know full well how to use one. When they get nostalgic over things like encyclopedias and catalogs. Don't play. You hated searching and waiting as much as we do. You love Amazon and Wikipedia too. Car seats. I don't care if you drove around with a baby laying in the front seat of your car, you aren't taking my toddler anywhere without a car seat. Got yelled at when I quit a job in college that paid $8 per hour. I made $3 per hour when I was your age, I would have killed to make that. Something inflation. Quit after I realized the money I made in a month would barely pay for one of my textbooks, and I was taking 18 credits and didn't have enough time to actually read them. Dad. Back in my day, if your dad made a joke about you and you make one back, he'd take you out back and beat you for disrespect. Me. That doesn't seem respectable, beating people who you don't like up. Didn't you teach me to not do that? Dad. That was extremely disrespectful, and in my day I would have whipped you with my belt for that. When I was 11, I was hit by a car crossing the road and it messed up the muscles in one of my legs, but I didn't officially find out about it until a couple years ago. I'm 23. So in high school I'd walk to school every day, and every day my calf muscle would feel like it was about to snap. I would tell my parents all the time and always got the in our day. We walked to school every day, and it was way further blah blah blah. They thought I was trying to get rides to and from school and be lazy, lying about being in pain, or saying it was just growing pain, and that it was normal. Edit. This really blew up over the last couple hours when I went to bed. Figured I'd try to consolidate some questions and hope everyone can see. So the big thing, a lot of people are saying my parents are bad, but I was second youngest of 7 in a mixed family, and my birth mother was an alcoholic and mega hypochondriac, and so was my older sister, so I think they wanted to avoid humoring me and making things worse. All it did was make me afraid to ask for help or go to the doctor, so obviously it worked. My only official diagnosis happened because I got hit by a second car 2 years ago riding my bike, and I went to the hospital for that, and they noticed me walking oddly like I always had and asked if I was okay. I told them about the first car accident, and while the doctor didn't give me a solid answer or do tests, I wasn't interested. I'm poor and any extra x-rays and stuff might have been expensive, you know. But he said that the most likely thing is that I had sprained the muscle, and since I didn't properly treat it, it led to muscular weakness and chronic pain. And lastly, if you guys like this story of my parents neglecting me, I have plenty of others. Maybe I should do a Reddit AMA lol. Second edit. I forgot the best part of this whole post, man. My parents saw me get hit by the car too. It happened right outside our house, so it's not like they didn't know how hard I got hit. My mom always told the story about her friend coming home after smoking weed and his dad shot him in the head for being high. That's why she is super against weed. Edit. They got in a fight over him smoking weed, which led to him getting shot. The dad said it was self-defense. Edit number 2. I live in Alabama. Weird things like that just happen here. Edit number 3. I just got the whole story. He was tripping on LSD and weed. The dad wanted him to go buy beer, but he didn't want to trip balls and drive, so they got into a fight over him not buying the dad beer. The dad shot him but claimed self-defense and didn't stay in jail. At the funeral, the mom was yelling at the dad who was there. WTF, would you kill him? And his friends put a joint in his dead body mouth at the funeral. Job hunting. That's great that this worked for you in the 80s, but it's the 2010s. Out-of-date job hunting advice. No, mom, going in every day and demanding to speak to a manager is not more effective than being polite and applying online. Mother. Back in my day, nobody believed you when you got molested. I was molested. Me. Gets molested, mother. That's not funny to lie about. I don't want to hear about it again. This is a serious issue, and you're mocking it. My parents always complained that back in their day the kids were always subjected to corporal punishments and were super submissive. They forgot that they already did that to me, they're just complaining that it didn't work that well. Not that they're actually submissive to my grandparents. Basically, I have bad parents, and they're bad people. The 50s were the best. My dad was born in 1958. Edit. My highest rated comment is making fun of my dad. I love Reddit. My stepdad always rants about me not buying a home when he bought one at 21 years old. He always forgets to mention that it only cost him $22,000. Having to listen to the getting to school and back stories. I know damn well that you didn't walk 10 kilometers in snow that reaches your waist through a forest with wolves and no proper winter boots. My mother would try and claim my siblings and I were lazy because when she was 14, she used to come home from school, walk the dogs, then dance all night. Turned out this translated to she would go out drinking and clubbing underage. Apparently there was actual shit you could buy for a quarter. Like great. There's not anymore. What significance does this have to me? Nothing? Thought so. The most annoying thing they rant about is us not providing our kids the same life they had. My great-grandparents owned several thousand acres at the turn of the century. They passed down land, heirloom furniture, a thriving farm, etc. The next generation split that all up. Sold a lot of it to start their own business. The next generation the same. The last little plot of that is my mom's acre. Each generation inherited less and less. I will inherit nothing. I got no land to start my family with, unlike them, no heirloom furniture, no money, nothing. My family looks down on me and my cousins for struggling, pretending they worked harder than we do, but they'll never know how hard our generation works for our kids. My mom was from Cambodia during the time when they were communist. Every time I ask for anything it's back in my day. This is how most conversations go in my house. Cookie dough is just an example. Me. Mom, can I get some cookie dough for later? Mom. Back in my day we ate bugs and we starved for days fleeing from the communist, dodging bullets, running around dead bodies, and you're asking me for cookie dough? You're so unappreciative and spoiled. Me. I know would have worked. I was an honor roll student. It isn't that hard. My mother, who took arts in high school, never went to college, and arguing with me about how it's not difficult to keep grades up. I'm a physics major, Mom. You don't know anything about what I'm doing. My stepdad was a newspaper boy at 14. I wasn't able to get a job until 16 and heard about it every day until then. People don't want to, can't hire under 16 most places, and if they do can, then you're doing literally nothing because of the child labor laws. The most annoying thing to me is how my parents complain that nobody from my community speaks our native language anymore. They say back in my day, everyone spoke our language, and today none of you kids can. Guess what? The adults never taught it. It wasn't used in the homes. So how the fuck are we supposed to learn it? And then I have people from the home country call me and speak, and I'm like, I barely understand. I can speak better than my siblings, but not that much better. And they yell at me. Don't blame me, blame my parents. And my parents and my friends' parents, they can all blame themselves and not their children. My grandparents. You can't trust anybody in this world anymore. Back in my day there were no rapes or murders. Everyone was nice and cared for each other, no one hurt each other. First of all, that's a fucking lie. There were rapes and murders and horrible people back in your day, you just never heard of them because A, they went unreported to the police, B, you didn't have TV and shit to report on them, C, you just never paid attention and pretended it didn't exist. My grandma also tries saying stuff like, oh, such and such city is dangerous, you can't ever go there. Any place can be dangerous. There have been murders and huge heroin problems just miles from my house. But the news only likes to report on the exciting problems in exciting areas. Doesn't mean it doesn't happen everywhere. Back in my day we didn't have virtual reality porn. We didn't even have the Sears catalog. We had to actually go to the store and jack off to the mannequins. Back in my day kids didn't talk back to their parents or give them attitude. If they did, they got a good beating. First of all, what you and your parents consider talking back is actually called having any sort of opinion different from yours. And yeah, maybe I do have an attitude, it should be expected. I'm young and stupid, but not so stupid that I can't have a thought of my own. And any attitude I do give you is mostly because my opinions aren't taken seriously and you don't listen to me. My friend's dad used to always tell us that if we were motivated we could go to the nearest grocery store, get a job as a bagger, and become store manager in a matter of months. My dad is always bitching about today's athletes. How they choose money and hold out or don't play while injured. In any other job, you would go where the money is, why is it you have to be loyal in sports? Sure enough, when KD was sitting out in the finals, he thought, you could never get me to sit during the finals, no matter what. Then KD injures himself and I shit you not, he ranted about how you have to be smart about injuries or you just hurt your team. Back in my day, a woman stood by a man, even if he beat the garbage out of her. No, mom, no. My parents like to go on about how technology and lazy parenting is the excuse, yes, excuse, for why mental health issues are rising. You know. Not because it's becoming less taboo to talk about it or anything. They're not being gay people back in the day. Like it's a brand new invention of the left. Lol. My father likes to ramble about how back in his day he went to school and also managed to work to provide sustenance to his mom and siblings. I think it's possible to study and work, but you have to be extremely lucky to earn enough to provide for a family these days while also studying. Back in my day we'd have this payload delivered already. How I was always being a bad kid by ignoring them by browsing Facebook while they ignore me when I ask them a question by browsing Facebook. Their excuse is, we are your parents, we can do whatever we want, you are our kid, so you have to respect us. Young people today are snowflakes. Really? Your generation tried to get CDs banned because people said naughty words on them. Back in my days people weren't that soft and full of emotions because we didn't have so much free time, we were working, and if someone wasn't disciplined, they sent them to the military, and that's exactly what your generation needs to get deep programmed because you guys have way too much time to think about your emotions. Not my parent but my grandmother, who basically raised me from age 8, likes to say by your age I was married, pregnant and working, what's wrong with you? She misses out the fact she was still living with her parents and her, now ex-husband, my bio-grandad, was in prison. I think I'm doing pretty well for myself. I haven't got a job, but I'm not raising a kid that I don't want like most of the people my age in this day and age, and I'm really trying to make a life for myself. Having to walk 2 miles to her bus stop in the rain and snow. Having to get a job at 15. Buying her own clothes. I love my mom, but she grew up better than I did, and hearing her complain just ticks me off a little. Edit. I feel bad that my top comment is me complaining about my mom. Lmao. Love you mom, I know you're on Reddit sometimes. Back in my day we didn't have the internet. Dad, if you've noticed, but we still don't have internet 90% of the time. It astounds me that in today's day and age of technology where we can send emails to the space station and cruise ships in the middle of the ocean, have Wi-Fi, that rural internet is still not even close to reliable. We're seeing more cancer now. Why? When we were kids we just played and ran and were ornery. My parents grew up very poor, which has made them very frugal. Growing up I learned a lot about saving money, but there's a difference between being frugal and just being cheap. My parents would use things until they are completely dead. They still had a CRT TV in their living room up until 2013. Growing up it was so hard to try and get my parents to get me new things was so hard, like I couldn't get new shoes until mine were literally falling apart, and even then we would get the cheapest shoes at Kmart or something. They would always buy the cheapest things possible, then complain when they would break or fall apart quickly. Even to this day they are still very cheap. My mom's phone is 4 or 5 years old and can't hold a charge, but she refuses to buy a new one. My dad travels for work a lot but still uses a pair of $25 Skullcandy headphones he got years ago on his flights. The laptops are from 2012 and they complain about them being slow and crashing but refuse to buy new ones. My dad said his laptop crashed last week and he had to completely reinstall Windows and ended up losing an entire day of work. I honestly don't understand it anymore. I live 1,000 miles away from them, so it's hard to keep track of the dumb stuff they do anymore. I should also point out that they make $100K per year each. Back in my days I had to take care of my brothers, clean, cook, do the laundry, clean the backyard, study, and I got good grades. Okay mom, sorry that I had a 90 in my grades, but also had to handle the after-school stuff that you forced me in, like the orchestra, sorry. My dad is more fond of the phrase, when I was starting out. Which is basically the same thing, I think. I should tell him, Dad, I haven't lived at home for more than 10 years now. I'm not looking to get married and have kids, ever. I'm not starting out anymore. Neither is my younger, married, sister who owns her apartment and has 2 dogs and is also not looking to have kids. Kids of immigrants have to deal with back in my country lectures. My mother likes to compare her younger self with me. She'd say stuff like, when I was your age, I didn't look like you at all. Especially your body. I was slimmer and it looked nothing like yours. Back in my day you could smack your kids and discipline them. Nowadays kids are running amok because parents don't kick them up the arse. Really? Is that why both of you are complete emotional fuck-ups who have extreme anger issues? Also something my dad says so often. Young people at work just expect to be the CEO straight away. What? Back in my day we weren't depressed. We went out and made friends. It's those computers and phones that are making you antisocial. Back on your day, you guys literally went out every night, got blackout drunk, went joyriding in stolen cars, and started fights with everyone. Sounds like you were looking for an outlet for your emotional pain. Back in my day we worked for what we wanted. If you want to buy a house, you need to work. Dude. It's proven that our money doesn't go as far as yours. Back in my day we had it harder because our interest rates were 17%. 17% on a $20K mortgage ain't much, mate. Parent. I want my kids to have a better life and not have to struggle like I did. Kid. Has their own opinion and personality. Parent. Back in my day, I would have been beaten for that. You deserve to be beaten. Go back to being property so that I can dream about what an amazing creator I am. I love violence. That back their day, they didn't have the phones that we do now and that we spend way too much time on it. You gave me the phone. You bought me the phone. You willingly gave me a device that I like to use and take with me everywhere. Oh yeah, well my parents never made me brush my teeth, either. My teeth were literally green. Apparently mom and dad had to climb all over the mountains in China to get to school.